Good evening, good morning, or whenever you're viewing this. We're doing our mise en place video for our Caribbean shrimp dinner. The first thing we're going to start off with is talking about some measurement units. Not everybody is necessarily going to have measuring spoons, so I'm going to show a couple of things to give you an idea if you kind of have to wing it. This is an eighth of a teaspoon. It is about the size of half of the end of my little pinky finger. And if I do an eighth of a teaspoon of salt, it looks like that in the palm of my hand. Next up, quarter teaspoon. It is about the size of the very end of my pinky finger, just a little bit smaller. And that looks like that in the palm of my hand. And finally, because I don't think we're going to get much more than this, we're going to do a half teaspoon, about the size of the end of an index finger. And it looks like that. Oh, just for good measure, 1 teaspoon. It's going to fill up the palm of my hand pretty good. That's about the size of the end of my thumb. So, there's some basic measurement units. All right, so what we're going to be doing today is our mise en place. That means getting stuff together, getting ready to cook. We're going to start off with our Fresno pepper. We're going to move to our mango, and we're going to be doing 2 different things with the mango. We're going to move to the red banana, cilantro, tofu, and finally the shrimp. And the reason we're going to do shrimp last is because it's a protein, it's fish, and we don't want to cross-contaminate everything else. Mixing flavors I'm not too worried about because we're going to be mixing flavors throughout the whole dish. That, however, we don't want to mix with anything else. Fresno pepper. First thing we're going to do, cut off both ends. Next thing we're going to do is take a little bite of this end. Why? You want to see what your heat is on that. Some peppers are hotter, some peppers aren't, even out of the same bin. Take your pepper. You'll see there should be 3 connective points. Find a spot in the middle, in between the points, and go down. And then unroll your pepper. Now, here's where heat is going to come into play. If you like things a little bit hotter, and these are pretty mild peppers, you're going to leave in the veins and just cut out the seeds. And in fact, you can just pull out the seeds and leave the veins. If you are really, really, really afraid of heat, I have a friend who sweats at ketchup. You're going to take your knife and just go holding it flat like that, taking out the veins. Turn your pepper over, skin side up. We're going to make some really, really, really slender, almost matchsticks, except for even thinner. You're going to want to cut the whole thing up, but you can see these are really, really tiny. Line those up, and please try not to cut your fingers off. We don't want blood in this. And then you're going to go the other way and just chop them into little tiny bits. If you happen to know what sea salt looks like, that's about coarse sea salt size. Next stop on our mise en place is preparing the mango. We're going to do this 2 different ways because we're using it for 2 different applications. Either way, you're going to slice down the side of the seed. We're going to get 2 slices out of that. Now, you can do this a couple different ways, but for the salsa that we're going to be doing, I'm actually going to use a spoon and kind of peel this a little bit like an avocado. So I'm going to go up to the narrow end here and just get that started. And then with these mangoes, assuming they're ripe enough, you can just sort of go down and peel that off like that. For the salsa, we're now going to do kind of like we did with the peppers and make some slices. They're going to be a little bit thicker than the pepper slices, rotate it around. And these, again, they're not going to be tiny like the peppers. Maybe 1/4 inch or so, 3/8 of an inch wide, so that it looks about like that. For our dessert, we're going to be cutting it a little bit differently. I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it into 3 strips. And I'm going to go down just until the knife hits the skin. And then I'm going to slice, kind of like we were taking the veins out of the pepper. And now I have some nice little mango chunks. And that's what's going to go into our dessert. Red banana. Cut both ends off. It's just a matter of making things simple for you. Slice down. Yeah, we all know how to peel a banana, right? Now for this, we're going to actually make some long slices. So each one's about 1/4 inch wide, and just like that. When you get to the end, you may have to do your fingers like this. Again, when you get to that point, go slowly so you don't cut yourself. Now we have our bananas. Next thing we're going to do is cilantro. Pretty simple. Just give that a pull, rip the leaves off. If you have some stem in there, it's okay. We don't want a lot of stem, but it's fine. It's not going to kill anything. Get yourself a nice little pile. Take your knife. What you don't want to do is chop like an axe. Everything should be a slicing motion. There you go, a nice rough chop on that. You don't need it really small like you would if you were doing parsley or something like that. Next up is tofu, if you're doing tofu. Not everybody's going to have tofu, just like not everybody's going to have shrimp. Again, about the size of your thumb here, maybe 3/4 inch wide. This is firm tofu. We're going to take that and then cut it in half, so it's going to be squares at the end, unless you want it a little bit longer. The thing about tofu is, unlike other proteins, it's very porous and it's going to soak up a lot of our marinade. So if you want to, you can leave it like that. I prefer them to be kind of bite-sized. You're probably going to get about 3 to 4 depending on how thick you cut it to start with. Last stop, shrimp. This is easier to do with a paring knife if you have it. Not everybody's going to have a paring knife today, so I'm going to use my chef's knife. You want to choke up on your blade a little bit, make it nice and steady so you don't have any issues. Put it right at the end of your shrimp. Just go straight back along the back. You don't want to go too far in. I'm just putting about that much of my knife blade in. This is going to be easier if you do all of your shrimp at once. So we'll do that. Again, right down the back of the shell, just barely getting in there. Now, I'm not going to walk over the sink, but what you want to do is put this under running water. You're going to squeeze on the legs. That's going to pull that shell off most of the way. And then squeeze right at the tail to get anything else. And then you're going to have some gooey stuff. This is why you want to do it in running water. Just take your fingernail, into your finger, grab some stuff, get that out. Second one, squeeze the shell, squeeze the legs, squeeze the tail, and then get rid of the guts. And there we go.